human sexuality because I had a knack for memorizing sex facts. I was brought up in a super waspy environment in which I was given very strict gender roles of what girls could do and couldn't do. And so becoming a sex educator was a form of rebellion against those gender roles. I think it was a part of me getting comfortable with being sexual after being assaulted. Misinformation, I'm really frustrated with the whole aspect of sex addiction right now. It's getting more and more attention, and none of it is based on science. So that is very troubling to me, that we keep putting out problems as opposed to addressing the variations of healthy sexuality. Our society really likes talking about all the bad things that can happen, but we don't even define what the good things are. I think one of the saddest things that happened was after another college where I did the orgasm closing activity. A woman came up to me after, and she looked pretty shell-shocked, and she was asking me, what just happened? What did she just see? People were walking up to the stage declaring that they had orgasms, and I was answering her very carefully because she was really struggling with like what just happened. And I asked her why she was having a hard time with it, and then she's like, no one limped getting up there. I'm like, no, didn't see it. She's like, no one was in a wheelchair. I'm like, no, I didn't see that. And she goes, I was always told that if I had an orgasm before I got married, I wouldn't be able to walk. And I just think that that's such a problem. And this was last year at a New England college. And so that's why I do this work, because of stories like that. And it happens all the time, in which this fear of our bodies and fear of our thoughts limits our ability to be human. And there are variations in terms of how we choose to behave, but if we can't even talk about, there's no way of us getting comfortable. So for people who are just starting off in terms of body positivity, which is different than I think than first starting off with like being sexual with others, I think it would be great and hard for them to watch themselves masturbating. I think that's a huge step, but it promotes genital self-esteem. It recognizes the whole body as being sexual, and it can show people how hot they look when they're getting it on.
I love it.
I think that people are a result of the society that gets crafted, and I think that with our restrictions in terms of what can be talked about and what can't be talked about, we have a nation in which it only makes sense for people to want to engage in fast interactions and build upon them. Because our culture really does not support being vulnerable. And I think it makes sense, and it's, you know, it's been shown that the hookup nation is not as bad as it used to be stated as it was. Like, people actually develop healthy relationships out of hookups, but it doesn't sound sexy to say that, you know? It doesn't sound healthy to say that, so. I think lubrication would be but favorite sex toy to recommend, because it increases the effectiveness of condoms, it makes pain less likely to happen, it makes people being able to play for longer periods of time. Different types of lube can allow you to have sex in the water, which is very green and eco-friendly. Students, not so much, besides the fact that they hate it. Older people, yes, absolutely. And I will go on record and say anything that gets our culture to talk more about sexuality and fantasies and their desires, I am fully in support of. This book was never stated to be a 101 guide. And when we start critiquing like that, we lose sight of who's reading it, and we act too academic. Start a sex club on campus. I would totally say start a sex club and join with reproductive justice organizations and really do collaborative work with other groups on campus of like, how can we bring in sexuality to diversity? How can we bring in sexuality to reproductive justice and talk about the interconnections between all of these groups? Because whether you're asexual or you're demisexual or you're bisexual, whatever it is that you are or you identify, we're all we all are a result of orgasms.
Amen.